Lately on this journey of finding myself and healing, I find myself itching to hit the record button sometimes. Even if I'll never post this anywhere or share it with anybody, I like the documentation, of what helps me feel like me, when I was lost. And I'm still kind of lost, but I've got all these, wonderful people around me helping me, giving me all these different things, bringing my childhood passions back that I thought burned out, but they didn't. It was it's the way I chose to live my life and shut things out and treat myself. But now I go outside and I get things off my chest while the wind is blowing. I talk to the wind, and if I don't feel like a guy who just talked to the wind after. I don't feel like some weird dude who's just outside talking to himself. And I know this all sounds shitty, but I'm learning, just like everybody does, because it's all my first time living. And I used to shun and hate the idea of spirituality and religion, because I thought that I couldn't believe in a belief system, just things that I could see and interpret and understand. But I'm sitting by my fire pit the other day. I start a small fire with leftover boxes we have, and I remember my mom tells me, like, hey dude, talk to flames, speak into water, things you want to happen. Light a candle and tell the flame everything you want and blow it out. And tell me if you feel like a crazy dude who just talked to a candle, or if you felt heard after. And, I felt heard when I was talking to the wind, and I'm just getting all these things off my chest. I'm like, I thought I sounded crazy talking to myself. I'm sorry that I'm doubting you, Mother Nature and all these elements. But, it's just a hard thing to believe in. I catch myself asking the wind, I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this anyways, but could I just get a sign? Like, could you blow the fire away from me? And that whole time I was talking to the wind, the smoke never came in my face one time. The smoke never came towards me. I was sitting right next to that fire. And that's beautiful. I mean, those are things anyone can do to not feel alone, because, you're not alone. And even just, sitting under the childhood tree that we used to climb, that I apologized to it the other day. Spirituality, it's not nonsense. It's not all this hippie stuff. It's just sitting outside, apologizing to your tree, and trying to learn the guitar and get better. Because that's as simple as it is. It's not complex. It's not complicated. You don't need to feel like it's the end of the world if you're battling with something. You just gotta go talk to a tree. And I didn't think I would upload this anywhere, but I really just wanted to get a video, of me appreciating nature and playing my guitar to the best of my ability after, getting guitar lessons and downloading an app to tune it. But I really just want to convey the message that even if it's just to myself, that nothing's hopeless. I thought I'd be gone forever after all the drug abuse and the losing my identity and stuff, and, I thought no one would be there for me. So I bottled it till it was a cry for help, instead of just asking for help, instead of just tapping my friends or my parents on the shoulder and being like, hey, I haven't been feeling so well lately. Like, can I get a helping hand? But, instead, a lot of us like to, with the way we grew up and the things we see in society, we like to think that we're not allowed to reach out to anybody. We like to think that, if we just bottle it, the bottle won't explode, the bottle will just grow bigger. And then at some point, you're sitting here with a 5-gallon bucket full of unpacked trauma and anger and all these things. And it's taking you away from you. It's taking your identity and your soul. You need to ask yourself, like, why? why do I feel like it's not safe to reach out? You know, why am I not being unapologetic for the way I am and how I need help? Why am I not being unapologetic for fucking living life? You know, trying to live a life you're not escaping from, but one that you can just look at and appreciate. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard. I'm not gonna say it's not that hard, but it's not that complex. It's hard. You know, I mean, fucking jumping over a 15-foot hole is hard, but it's not complex. And there is a way over or around it, isn't there? So I think that, like, a lot of us lose our belief in a lot of things, and that, you know, there is a good future and that we can be hopeful. Like, dude, I'm 18 pushing 19, and when I was 15, I thought it was over. When I was 16, I thought it was over. When I was 17, I was doing a little better. And then, you know, it went down, and I thought it was over. I went unemployed for a whole year, you know, no ID. I didn't feel like I was doing anything. I felt stuck. And I'm still kind of in that position, but I don't feel stuck. I know I'm stuck for the meantime, but I don't feel stuck. I feel challenged, right? And I want to take that challenge and fucking complete it, and then run into another one, into another one. Because without that challenge, I mean, like, the end goal, it's just worth nothing. You know, you don't want to play in a Fortnite lobby full of fucking 99 bots and win. Where's the challenge? You know, there's no stress, there's no hard times, there's no forcing to grow and helping yourself grow and helping yourself get better. You know, if there's no challenge, it's not worth dwelling on. You know what it is? You know what's worth something, though? You. And, you know, putting your feet in front of the other in the day. Even if you don't brush your teeth every day like I didn't. Even if you don't shower every day like I didn't. You know, those are things I'm still working on. But that doesn't make you worthless. That just makes you struggle. And it's okay to struggle. And it's okay to not be okay. You know, you see it on these shirts. You know, you have people tell you all the time, and you don't believe it. But, like, what are you're gonna die if you feel sad? You know, you're gonna go to jail if you feel sad? No, you're not. It's temporary, you know. It's all just temporary and, like, in your head, and, like, you don't need it to be there in your head, you know. Just breathe. Name whatever feeling you're feeling. Let it pass through you. You know, give it space to pass through you, and remind yourself that, you know, whatever feeling you just named that you're feeling, it's temporary. And that brings some beauty to anxiety and depression too, because it's temporary. Yet something can be so impactful and so helpful towards your growth, even though it hurt and it was temporary. It's beautiful. You know, these sticks, and these leaves, and the stick that's poking out from under my chair, like, they're all things to appreciate. And if you don't appreciate yourself, start somewhere small. You know, appreciate the 84,000 seconds in the day. Even if you feel bad for 80,000 of those seconds, those 4,000 seconds when you feel good are why you're going to keep passing through the next day, and the next day, and the next day, until it's just second nature to overcome everything and regulate everything. And, you know, it's not going to be that big of a challenge anymore. You know, it's not going to be this big end of the world thing. It's just going to be like, man, I'm who and where I always wished to be. Even if it's just mentally or physically, or, you know, you finally stuck to a routine that made you feel a teensy bit better. Think about how the person you were before, you know, that crack, that shell of somebody that's not you, that's in there, that you're growing from. Think about how they would feel about you right now. You know, that little kid that, you know, said they never do drugs or anything. And they never drink, get into alcohol, or fucking vape or anything like that. You know, I was one of those kids. And I let go. You know, I'm letting go of the fact that, you know, I'm not that kid anymore. and then I became a whole different person due to my decisions and my choices. And this smothering myself down and the self-pity, instead of just being like, dude, you're the fucking brain in the body. Like, why are these other things consuming you? Why aren't you consuming it? Right? Why aren't you consuming it? You could be so much more. You don't have to be that person that you thought you'd never, like, you wanted to be, right? And you don't have to be ashamed for being that person you never wanted to be. Because if that's what you never wanted to be, then that's not you. It's not meant for you. You're watching this, you're probably 16, 17, 18. I know people call 20-year-olds unk and things like that, but dude, fucking 18 years out of a potential 75, and out of every single day of the 365 days per year of that 75 years you could have, has those 84,600 seconds. So not only do you have those seconds to appreciate and things like that, you have every day to appreciate. The fact that you can wake up another day and feel sad is something to appreciate. Because some people can't, some people folded like you probably wanted to, like I wanted to, like I tried to. A lot of people do fold every day, or they try to every day, or they think about it every day. But a lot of the people who don't go through, or they hear, whatever they believe in, maybe God really did talk to them, and that's awesome. Or they had that little voice in the back of their head saying, hey, dude, this isn't worth it. It's not worth it. All those people, they come back and, they fight with a better outlook. And a lot of the people who, haven't tried yet, or haven't been pushed to that brink yet, but they feel like they'll get pushed, you don't have to go there to get better. Rock bottom isn't a requirement. It never was. Rock bottom was never the point you had to reach to get back up, dude. Fucking, yeah, falling to rock bottoms like fucking, like you fell between the Grand Canyon, or you fell between a very tight place and you're in the middle and you're falling down to rock bottom. You don't have to hit rock bottom to, grab those sticks and stick them in the dirt and keep climbing yourself back up. You can catch yourself on the side of that wall on the way down. And then you could end up like me, I doubt myself a lot. I only just started this journey of healing and being a better person, and self-preservation. I doubt myself a lot. I have a lot of things I can't control, like in my head and things like that. Nothing crazy, but regular human things that, we struggle with day to day. And it feels like it might stop me. When it gets bad, it feels like I can't do anything. It really, really feels like it might stop me, but it hasn't. And it doesn't have to stop you either. It doesn't have to be that way. The way it should be and the way it can be is the way you make it. Life doesn't come at you. It's not coming at you. The world's not against you, all these things. Life comes from you. If you've been having all these negative things pile up and pile up and pile up and pile up, you've probably been thinking negatively that whole time since the first bad thing happened to you. And you thought, God, I just, I've been told to think positive, but I wake up and I don't, I can't get myself to think positive after. Because, I don't think it'll help, I have this underlying thought that it doesn't help and it won't do anything. It's just like, dude, who cares if it doesn't help, That's another option exhausted to make yourself better. Exhaust all the options, you know what I mean? Exhaust all the options. Because at the end of the day, there's one, maybe five. Maybe, there could be an endless amount of options that work for you, or there could just be one. You just need to exhaust all of them before it's too late. If you feel like it might be getting too late, or you feel like, or you're scared it's getting too late and you never want to make it to that point, talk to somebody. I felt lighter, after talking to the wind and the trees and the tree you're sitting against. Me and my friends, when we were kids, we used to climb this tree every day. You know what I mean? Back when we all had our identity and our soul, and the world didn't seem so bad, we used to all climb this tree and debark it. Throw our dumb little knives in it that we never should have had. Pull the bark off, hit it, mistreated, and it's just like, I apologize to it. Decade later, I sat right where I'm sitting right now when things felt really hard, and I was talking to my mom, and she was like, "Hey, dude, you're not alone even if I'm not there. You're not alone even if your little sister's asleep or she's too young to understand these kinds of things and help you out. You have the world, the entire world around you. Because, we're not the only things that are living. This leaf right here that's now dead, that's a tragedy, but it lived. These leaves were alive. These leaves could have heard what you were saying, and they kept it, and they listened, and you might have felt lighter, talking to somebody or something outside without even realizing it. And it might have just been these carrying everything off in the wind. Might have been the wind, sticking around for a little bit until you're done talking, and then all of a sudden, the wind's gone, but so is that weight in your chest. Even if it's just 2 pounds gone, it's still weight gone. If you don't care that it's only 2 pounds, then you don't care for getting better. Every small step that feels good, and every step backwards that feels like shit, all those things they're all regular and normal, and things that you'll have to do and things you'll need to do. And if you don't cherish the 2 pounds shed from the pain you've been holding, you might as well hold it all. You know what I mean? You'll realize that you want to live the same as I do. I used to not want to. I didn't believe in it, but down there, you want to live to see better days and to prosper. It's just like, what are you going to do about it?